morning again. We are here for the Addison Public Library Goodwill Hamdard combination of talking about why am I not landing the job. We're going to let our community partners talk a little bit about what they do, and then we're going to pass this off to Anna to present.
My name's Nina Cross. I am the Client Resource Coordinator over at West Suburban Community Pantry, and I am thrilled that we have started a partnership with Addison Library, as well as Hamdard Mental Health Clinic, and I should say Goodwill for these webinar workshops. So yeah, we're thrilled. We'll give you some information further about the pantry as well a little later. And we have incentives for you all. So welcome.
My name is Muriel. I'm the health navigator here at Hamdard, and I'm here with my coworker, Basma.
Hi, everyone.
Now, Hamdard Healthcare was created by Dr. Muhammad Hamid and the late Dr. Farzana Hamid. In 1992, they addressed the clinical mental health needs of South Asian and Middle Eastern communities. Their mission was to promote the physical and emotional health and physiological well-beings of individual families by offering hope, help, and healing. Our locations were first created in Chicago on Devon Street. Then we opened up in Addison on Lake. And recent to our new addition to our family, we have a Bensonville location on 83. We offer primary care, family medicine, health education and nutrition, cardiology, immunizations and school physicals, individual and family counseling, child and adolescent counseling, group counseling, psychiatry, medicated assisted treatment, MAT. And we also have services like public health benefits, health navigation, and now our COVID clinic in Addison at the public library, Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 9:30 to 12 noon, and our Chicago location on Devon, Thursdays and Fridays from 9 to noon. Last, I just wanted to leave that we take all insurances and we're on the sliding scale as well. So thank you for having us.
I will go ahead and we're going to talk a little bit of just about what's coming up at the library, and then we're going to make this all about the content for today. So good morning, my name is Leslie. I am the business librarian here at the Addison Public Library. What that means, it's my job to work with our community for job seekers, business owners, entrepreneurs, do programs like these, including one-on-ones. That is my contact information and kind of what I look like in person, not on Zoom. So if you need anything, please don't hesitate to come in and see us. We are open. Note, as Muriel mentioned, that we are a vaccination site and our parking lot's under construction. So make sure you give us an extra few minutes to park if you come in to visit us.
Hey everyone, I'm Marcy. I'm the social services coordinator at the library. What I do, I work directly with patrons, listening to their needs and coordinating services with them. DuPage County has great resources, so part of coordinating includes making referrals to community agencies. Like Leslie said, one-on-one services are available at the library. They are free by appointment. You can schedule an appointment using the link that Leslie will drop in the chat.
Great, thank you. So just to highlight a few programs we have coming up later this week, we have one of our favorite presenters coming back to talk about how to create your side hustle during the COVID era. Awesome if you're just looking for something while you find another job, get back to work, just who doesn't love a good side hustle. We have a new community partner coming in later this month for Job Search 101. And then the PRC will be back for the ever popular How to Beat the ATS program. We're also really excited to be partnering with Hamdard again and with the People's Resource Center and Goodwill to bring to you our first one of our first job seeker programs in Spanish. We're also having Google present that, so it should be a great program. Last but certainly not least, we are starting a business development book group. So if you want to come network, read a good topic, that'll be great. The best part about that is you get to keep the book. You get a free copy. So make sure you can check out any of that. Marcy's going to drop a link that will include all of those where you can register. Next month, we have a very special series bringing in Erica Reckamp from Job Search Like a Pro. It's a 3-part series. We'd love to have everyone attend. These are not recorded, so if you can attend live, you'll get a lot of value out of it, which she hasn't been able to present for us before. So we're really excited to have her here. If you have not picked up our new job toolkit, make sure you do that. Our community partners helped us develop a toolkit that gives you tips on every single part of the job search, from a worksheet to develop your resume to job tools, job negotiation toolkits. It's all there. Come in and pick one up. If you want me to put one aside for you, I'm happy to reserve that for you. We can also even put that together with the, if for attending today's workshop, you got a free little incentive from the food pantry, I can bundle those two together for you. Last but certainly not least, programs like this one are available on our YouTube channel. So if you missed something, want to watch it again, or just want to learn a new skill, make sure to check that out. All right, so that is the end from us. So without further ado, we're very excited to have Anna from Goodwill here to present on today's topic.
I am Anna McDonald from Goodwill, the Workforce Connections Center. And just a little bit about Goodwill. We are a free service to the community that is the Workforce Center. So when you buy something from Goodwill, it supports our programming, which are the workforce centers in DuPage County and Cook County. My location, Lombard, is located in the Lombard store at 351 East Roosevelt Road. We are open 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. We also have a location at North Riverside, which is Harlem and Cermak, and also in Inglewood. So if you need access to a computer to do a job search, if you need help with a resume, mock interviews, job leads, please get registered with us. I put up my email address and my phone number. We're happy to help you. Please call me, send me your resume. We're happy to look at it. And give you some job leads and get you connected to an employer. You can even follow us on Facebook, and we can get you registered at our database to get a calendar invite on all of the workshops, all the libraries we're teaching at, all of the hiring events, because employers actually come to the Goodwill store for hiring events. So, and I'm finding that a lot more employers are reaching out now, and they're ready to start hiring again. Some of our positions are entry level, but we do have contacts with employers that are looking for mid-level and management positions. So please reach out to us. We are here because you are buying from Goodwill. And we appreciate when you come to our Goodwill stores. So today we're supposed to be talking about why I'm not landing the job. And I don't know why this is not working. Give me a second here. So why am I not landing the job? Please feel free to ask any questions. I'm happy to answer anything that's not making sense, or even if you have a comment or something you want to share, please feel free to do that. I miss our in-person workshops when we could be face-to-face and have conversations. And as a presenter, I feel like I'm not able to communicate well with the attendees and kind of, get that body language we're looking at to figure out if what we're saying is right or not, or elaborating. So please feel free to answer or ask questions or comments. So why am I not landing the job? Today, we're going to talk about, did you practice? The employer's perspective, a few reasons to consider why you're not getting a second interview, behaviors in the interview. What do you mean by you are not a good fit? And it isn't you. So the first thing that you have to realize, if you are actually, if you're not getting interviews, if you're not getting anybody to say, hey, can we call you and talk? Let's schedule an interview. There's probably something wrong with your resume. Or maybe you're not applying for a right fit of a job for you. But if you are getting the interviews and you've had many interviews and nobody has given you an offer, this is what this is for. But it's also really kind of to help you give a good interview if you're getting to that point. So I think when we're talking about why am I getting interviews and not getting an offer, the first thing you need to think about is the interview process has changed. It's not like it was, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. It no longer are we in the day when you can walk into an employer, have an interview, and have a handshake. That really doesn't exist. Even for some small mom and pop employers. So, you know, now employers are wanting you to apply online. You're probably going to be asked for an assessment. You might even be asked to do an on-demand interview, which we're not going to go into too much detail about that, but that's where you answer questions. You film yourself or record yourself answering a question, and then it goes back to the recruiter or the hiring manager to look at. So there's all kinds of changes that are happening in the workforce. And so if you're struggling to get an answer or to get the yes, and you're having these online interviews or on-demand interviews, maybe you're doing something wrong in the video. That's actually another discussion. I have a workshop on that. Getting through the assessments are hard for people. You know, other changes to the interview process is there's more rounds of interview. You know, you have your phone interview with the recruiter, then you're asked to meet with the hiring manager, then you're asked to meet with the hiring manager's manager, and then maybe you're asked to meet with the team. So there's more round of interviews, and it's really discouraging sometimes. I've been there. And then you don't hear back, right? You do all these interviews, you don't hear back. So it's really discouraging. And part of being successful in the interview is, if you're having these difficulties, don't bring it into the next interview. I see it all the time. People are stressed out. They're upset that they're having to go through all of these hurdles and barriers just to, you know, get the interview. And then there's rounds of interviews, and there's frustration and negativity. You can't bring that into the interview. And then, you know, of course, you go through all the hoops, and then you don't hear back from them. So this is just how it is. And you have to kind of go with the flow. You can't take it personal. You can't bring it into the next interview with you. Every interview is a fresh interview. You're starting all over again. You know, learn from your mistakes if you have to. So that's one of the issues that I'm seeing with why people aren't getting or landing the job, is because either A, they're struggling with the online videos and they're not given a good presentation when actually they might be a really good fit for the position, or B, they're bringing the resentment and the frustration into the interview, and that negativity really can be received. It's all about the body language. Another part about why you're not getting the interview or landing the job is that you didn't prepare for the interview. This is 70% of the work that goes into getting to the yes is really the preparation. And if you're not spending time preparing for the interview, you are doing yourself a disservice. You have to be better than the next person, and that comes with preparation. Not everybody is good on their feet, thinking, coming up with the answers right away. For some of us like me, we've got to think about it. We've got to spend time formulating the words we're going to use, the reflection part of it. So what you need to do is put yourself in the day of the life of the job and figure out, what did I do today? Who did I talk to? Why did I talk to them? How did I communicate with them? You know, think about your accomplishments. What are you really proud of? What is that assignment that you did so well? You got all these pats on the back. You know, did you exceed your goal? How did you exceed your goal? What were the barriers that you had to overcome to achieve that goal? Were you getting letters from customers on what great service you provided? Were you in an industry where there's a high probability of an accident and you never had an accident? You know, if you're transporting children or people, or, you know, driving a vehicle and there's no accidents, that's really something to be proud of. Workman's comp is so expensive. And the fact that, there's no accidents happening at work, when again, there's a high probability of an accident, that means that you are following instructions and policies and procedures, and you care about the safety of yourself and your colleagues and your customers. So think of your accomplishments, write that down. Think about what I enjoyed and what I dreaded in my job. You might enjoy numbers, or you might dread working, with numbers or balances and budgets. Maybe you dread public speaking, or you dread working with a customer. That happens. What do you enjoy and what do you dread? What are your work behaviors? What are your values? Do you value good customer service? Do you value honesty, integrity, confidentiality? You got to think about that. What are the employer's values? When you're applying for an employer, you need to figure out what are their values, because a lot of the questions that they ask are going to be about their values or their guiding principles and what's important to them. And that's probably behaviors like communication, interpersonal skills, which leads to what are your transferable skills? What are your interpersonal skills? How do you relate to others? How do you listen? What are your listening skills? What are your writing skills? What is your communication? What are your organizational skills? Multitasking, time management. You've got to think about all of this and write it down. And as you're writing this list, this is what you're going to work off of to write your resume and compare to what that job description looks like. So all of this is written down, it's fresh in your mind, you thought about it, you thought about your strengths, you thought about what you need to improve upon and come up with an action plan. Maybe you're not very good on Microsoft, but you're going to the libraries. A lot of libraries have free classes that you could take. Are you maybe going on Google and doing tutorials? Goodwill has a really good website. And if you email me, I could give it to you. It has all kinds of videos and quizzes and worksheets on really everything from technical skills to soft skills. And then make a list of all your abilities and your skills so that it's fresh in your mind. So when you're in the interview and you're asked a question, you could answer a question about how do you handle conflict, right? Think about times that you worked with a customer or your manager and you didn't agree with them. How did you manage that situation? Did it trigger you? Did you yell? Did you calmly respond? If you're working with a customer and they're yelling at you, if you're on the phone with them, did you hang up on them? Did you de-escalate the situation? Did you calm them down? That goes to emotional intelligence, which is another workshop that we teach. But you've got to think about all of this. It's got to be fresh in your mind. You've got to be able to talk about it in the interview. And one of the common things that I'm seeing with people that are interviewing is that they're not able to answer an interview question and give an example of their behaviors. We talk about the STAR process. When you're asked a question, you give a situation or a task, your actions, which is the A, and the results. And you've got to tell that story in less than 2 minutes. So if you're scared in the interview and you feel like it's interrogation, and you can't think quickly on your feet, how are you going to answer a question, right? But because you spent time to memorize and then think about it, it's fresh in your mind and you're able to talk about it. So honestly, did you prepare for the interview? This is a really interesting quote that I found from an expert. The first thing I would say to people is listen, before you get into negotiation, take the time or the preparation time that you need. Too many people skimp on this. Your interview is a negotiation and you've got to figure out what's happening on the other side of the table, right? What is the needs of that person that you're talking to? So let's talk about the interview questions. This is where a lot of people, I think, are stumbling to on why are these questions being asked. So they ask mostly behavioral interview questions, and it's a specific situation in your past and how you handled it. Because how you handled something in the past is how you're going to handle in the future. They're looking for that behavior, and that's why they're asking this interview question. Employers are not in the business to hire and change you. You come to them with all your luggage, you come with them with your skills, your things that need improvement, and then it's got to align with their values and how they do things. They can't teach you a behavior. You have got to change yourself, but they can teach you a technical skill. So you've got to think about how you behave and how you handle problems and how you manage conflict and, you know, get over hurdles and barriers and change and stress. So let's talk about some of the interview questions. So describe a situation where you and a colleague whom you relied upon for support were in conflict. How did you address the situation? So this unearths the candidate's conflict resolution abilities. It also may illustrate how flexible the candidate is in adapting to their expectations and or behaving with humility to achieve a greater organizational good. This really is, they're going to probably dive deep into questions about conflict. And there's many questions that could be asked without saying, how do you handle conflict, right? But that's really what they're trying to figure out. How is it to work with you? How do you handle stress? People that are under stress handle conflict differently than somebody that can manage stress, right? So they're trying to figure out if there's a situation on the team, and you know, when we're talking about conflict, we're not talking about people at each other all the time. I mean, there could be some conflict because there's some miscommunication. So how are you going to manage that? And they want an example. They want to see, give me the situation and tell me how you handled it. The next one, provide an example of a difficult situation with a major client that you had to resolve. What steps did you take? What was the outcome? So this exposes the candidate's advanced customer relationship management skills, as well as problem solving. It reveals how well they connect the dots between a problem and a meaningful outcome. So they want to see, okay, what are your problem solving skills? How do you manage a problem? How do you look at it? Can you connect the dots? Can you pull it apart and figure out how it happened without getting overexcited, without getting everybody all upset, to figure it out, especially if you're working with a customer? They come to you because they have an issue. You know, are you going to take it out on them, or are you going to ask the right questions? So this is what they're probing for. What is the process that you take to resolve a problem? Let's talk about the employer perspective. So I've said it before, you were in negotiation and you're talking to somebody on the other side of the table. You have to understand their perspective. What are their needs? Especially, you know, in the interview, you're trying to figure out what skills are needed in this job to succeed. And the employer probably isn't going to tell you. You've got to figure it out, because once you find out what is that skill, then that's what you talk about. Oh, I have that skill. Let me give you an example of me using that skill. So when you're talking to a hiring manager, this is the person that you're going to report to. You're going to be talking to the recruiter. They're the ones that are kind of filtering out the candidates, and they're going to ask you questions. But then you're going to talk to the hiring manager. This is the person that is going to be leading you. What are they thinking? So they're probably thinking, why do they want to work here, right? Why are you taking the time to fill out this application to work for us? What motivates you to do this job? So if you're going to answer the question with, I only need a paycheck, or how much are you paying? That isn't going to flow. That is not motivation enough to get up and do your job and, you know, to give over 100%. You've got to figure out, why am I working for this company? Is it the title? Is it the brand? is what is it? You've got to figure that out. And you really need to have, you need to target about 10 to 20 employers that you want to work for, because they're a leader in the industry, or because they have the positions you're interested in, or because you're passionate about healthcare or passionate about teaching, whatever that is. They're also thinking, can I manage this person? Are they going to listen to me? Are they going to be a challenge, right? Are they going to, try to take over the team? How is it to manage this person? And that's why they ask that question. If I was talking to your employer, what would they say about you? They're kind of probing to see, what is the perspective of somebody that's worked with you before? So hold on one second, I need a drink. They'll say, give me 5 words that your manager would use to describe you. And that kind of gives them an idea of, are you easy to get along with? Do you take instruction? Do you take criticism? Do you handle stress? Do you carry your weight? Do you know your job? The next one, do they really understand the role? Again, that's going to, do you understand what are the skills that are needed to do this job? Does this person, do they have the skills? And that's what they're probing for. They want examples of you performing this skill, this one skill, or this one technique or tool or technology that they use. Can you get along with the team? Are you going to disrupt people? Are you going to cause problems? Are you going to gossip? Are you reliable? Are you going to call in sick all the time? Will you represent the brand well? And that's really important, because we no longer work in a 9-to-5 job anymore. Our jobs are 24/7, meaning because of social media, anybody could get on social media and make a comment about an employer or somebody who works for them, and it goes viral. And that upsets and disrupts their brand, right? Think of all the stories that we've seen just in the last year of people, all the Karens out there, that have kind of revealed what are their real values. And they want to know, are you going to represent us well? Besides that, can they put you in front of a customer? Are you going to be presentable? Are you going to smell? Are you going to pick your nose in front of them? Are you going to use foul language? How are you going to represent us? Do I want this person in front of the customer? Do I want you talking to them? Can you communicate with me? Because I need you to communicate with the customer. And if you can't meet their needs, or understand and kind of unravel what's the problem they're having, how can I help them? If you don't have those skills to problem solve, why do I want to put you in front of a customer? You're only going to frustrate them. Will you stay with the company? That's an important one. Employers they've spent about $5,000 to hire an employee. That's the cost of, the recruiter's salary or a staffing agency, technology used, advertisements. It's the overtime that they have to pay because there's an open position they're trying to fill. And now, everybody's scrambling to get the work done, and they're working overtime. So are you going to stay with the company? Is this they want to know, okay, we figured out your skills. We think you could do it. Are you going to stay with us? That's what they want to know too. So there's a lot that they're thinking about on the other side of the table. And you need to consider, their needs. What are they looking for? Again, you have to connect the dots for them. And being successful in the interview is really paying attention to, why are they asking me this question? And connecting the dots about all the questions that they're asking. Oh, all of these questions that they're asking me about is about, resolving conflict, or all the questions that they're asking me are about working with a customer. And that's an opportunity for you to share more about these great skills that you have working with customers, or examples of solving problems. In the interview, the employer is looking at your resume and they're thinking, Are they lying to me about their skills? And you need to know that when you apply for a job online, that is a legal document. Any form, any application that you are signing that an employer is giving you is a legal document. You are saying, and they're, you know, that's where you put your initials. They're saying, can we do a background check? Are you confirming that everything is correct? You know, if you're lying about anything, even if they find out after you've been hired, you can be fired from a job. So they want to know, are you lying? Did you not, you know, bring in this big contract or have these connections? Is the candidate lying about their education? That happens a lot. Are you exaggerating your accomplishments? You know, what would the previous employer state about you? So they're thinking about all of these things. So according to this book, the 2 traits all hiring managers looking for during interviews without even realizing, it says that the ideal applicant comes off as both able to do the job and someone that you want to spend time with. And it comes down to this, right? Can you do the job, and can I work with you 8 hours a day? And you need to figure out, can I work with this manager 8 hours a day? Because we all have been in those interviews where we know we could do the job and they know we could do the job, but can we work together? You know, is this person a type A personality? Are they going to be bossy? Are they going to be micromanaging everything? You know, you need to figure that out too, because this is what they're thinking. Can they do the job, and can I work with you every day? So some of the reasons why people are not landing the job is because of this term, the good fit, right? So an employer is never going to tell you why they didn't hire you because of legality reasons. And that's why it's important for you to figure out, what did I do wrong in the interview so I can change my behavior so that I do better in the next interview. But we do hear this term good fit all the time, and it means many things. It could mean a cultural fit. Every company has a cultural a culture to it. It's how they do things. It's, you know, how they make decisions. It's their behaviors. It's the vernacular that they use, you know, and it's different from every company. And maybe, you know, your values are not aligned with how they do things there. You know, maybe they really do believe in being honest, or they believe in confidentiality. Those are their core values. That's probably on their website. And they're probing and they're asking questions, and they're finding out that, you know, this person, they kind of cut the corners on this, or I don't think they were honest with the customer. Well, is that honesty and integrity? Is that, you know, maybe a lack of confidentiality? And to them, they can't teach you to care or to be honest. You know, maybe you're just so competitive that, you know, you might lie about things, and they see that. Why do they want to hire you? Because that's not how they believe. So, you know, the cultural fit can mean it's just not, you know, the values aren't aligned with how they do things. It could be because you just don't have, you know, the qualifications to do the job, or it's the chemistry. You know, I've, you know, been asked to be a referral for somebody, and I had a hiring manager call me about this particular person. And I, you know, I thought the person was a great colleague, and they were actually my manager. They were easy to get along with, and I just really enjoyed working with them. And the hiring manager said, you know, she goes, I'm looking, seriously considering another candidate that I think that, you know, I don't have to teach them the technology. They are go-getters. They're going to get the job done. They're going to do great, but I don't think I can work with them every day. Now, the person that you and I are talking about, you know, I'm going to have to teach this person how to use this database, but I really feel like I could work with her, and that she is going to be easy to work with our colleagues and people in other departments, and people are going to really like her. So sometimes it does come down to, can I work with this person every day? Can we get along? We all have been in those positions where we just didn't like the people we worked with or our manager. And it was so, it was so upsetting, and you didn't want to get out of bed, and then you don't give 100% in the job because you're just getting through the day. And all the dramas before us, and we're just not focused on the work. And so chemistry is a good fit to some degree. How will the employer determine a good fit? They're going to ask the interview questions, and they're going to feel, how are we acting? What's the body language in the interview? Pay attention. If you're being interviewed by somebody that's a potential manager and their manager, what is the chemistry between those two? Are they getting along? Because it's going to trickle down to you. You need to, pay attention to how they do things and probe and ask questions. So here's a list of reasons that employers are giving about why they're not giving job offers. And, Career Builders a couple of years ago did a survey and talked to employers about what's happening in the interview. And 55% of the managers said that people are appearing disinterested. And that can mean many things. That could be, maybe you're just nervous and you aren't asking the right questions, and it's not a discussion, and it is more like an interrogation. That might be appearing that you're disinterested, but you're just nervous. And that's why practicing is so important. Dressing inappropriately. These are just the basics of a hiring or of an interview. If you're not dressing appropriately, you're revealing too much, the skirt's too high, or even the guys are not dressed appropriately. I was talking to a hiring manager that was actually hiring people to work in garages where it's oily and it's yucky. And one of the mechanics came to her office for an interview, and he came from his previous job and he was all greasy and yucky. And she's like, you couldn't go home and take a shower. So, you again represent the company. And if you are not dressing appropriately and the hiring manager sees it, what is the customer going to say? Talking negatively about a current or previous employer. This right here, if you are being negative in the interview, and it could be negativity because you're frustrated with the process, like I talked about at the beginning, or you just didn't like your previous employer or your previous manager, you cannot bring negativity into the interview. And simply being, if you're going to do it about a previous employer, you're going to do it about them. And are you going to talk about them on social media, right? Again, things go viral fast. Not only that, who wants to work with the Debbie Downer, right? They bring the drama into the office. They get everybody all upset. People are pitted against each other, and nobody's focused on the work. It's draining to be around people that are negative. So be positive. And even if you had a bad experience and it's all legitimate, you've got to come up with a way to turn it around into a positive experience. So if you need somebody to talk to about that and how to come up with that verbiage, we're here to help you. Not providing specific examples, give examples of your behavior. And as you could see, it's so surprising when you look at these numbers that, I would think that people aren't providing good enough examples in the interview, but that's only 33%. 33% of recruiters and the hiring managers said that was the issue, when appearing disinterested or dressing inappropriately was the worst of it. So, think about that. What are you wearing to the interview? Providing too much personal information. Don't talk about health issues. And yes, you want to make sure that this is a good position for you and that you could actually, meet the requirements of lifting if that's involved, or travel or whatever. But don't talk about your personal life. Don't give any indication of children. Don't give any indication of what's happening on your outside life. Focus on your skills in the workforce. And that's it. Only give examples about what's happened in your career and examples of, your behaviors and your skills. Don't focus on anything that is personal in nature. Other reasons: you're intimidated or know-it-all. Maybe you dominate the conversation and you just talk and talk and talk. And that could be because you're nervous, or maybe because you want to be in control of the interview and you're not letting the hiring manager or the recruiter control the interview. Other reasons: recruiters and hiring managers sometimes incompetent. It happens. They don't know what they're doing. Maybe that's one of the reasons why you didn't get the job. I was in an interview once where I was the first person that was interviewed for the position. And the hiring manager was new in the position. And she even said, you're the first person I'm interviewing. I'm new in this job. And she was nervous and not asking good enough questions. And even though I felt like we get along, I was a reminder to her of her incompetence or her lack of ability to, command an interview. So sometimes it's just not, a good interview, and the recruiter and the hiring manager just don't give, aren't present, don't know what they're doing. Unfortunately, hiring managers make decisions based on personal biases. That happens. They want somebody of particular gender or generation. It happens. The company doesn't have any idea about what skills are needed to succeed in the position. Maybe it's a new position and they don't know what success looks like. So how can they ask you questions if they aren't sure about what skills are really needed? And that's why you need to ask that question in the interview. Why is the position open? Is the position open because it's a stepping stone to better positions? Is this position open because it's a new position and you can make it your own, but then there's the pitfalls? Is it a position that's grant funded? So you need to figure out, or the companies can't interview the right person because they don't know what that looks like. They went for an internal candidate. You could ask, are any internal candidates applying? Employers sometimes pride themselves on, giving their internal candidates opportunities for advancement. And maybe this is a position that could be advancement for another candidate and their internal. Maybe you just didn't do well in the interview. Maybe you didn't practice. You couldn't sell your skills or your brand. Again, practice is so important, and really understanding what you're good at and coming up with examples to share about how you succeeded in your accomplishments. You talk too much and you didn't use a STAR approach. You didn't explain to them, you didn't give them the situation and the actions and the results, and you just talked off the top of your head. Lacked confidence, that is so important. You have got to be confident in your skills and your abilities to do the job. And it can be felt, even if you're saying the right things, that chemistry, that energy, it could be felt. And, the hiring manager could get a gut feeling about something. There's something not right. And maybe it's just you are confident in yourself. You've got to believe in yourself. And I'm not talking about, being conceited or narcissistic, but you are selling yourself in the interview. You've got to be confident in what you do. Did you take your personal issues into the interview? The negativity, all of the bad interviews, the process that stresses you out, the bad experiences, leave all that luggage out of the interview. Maybe you gushed about how, this is your dream job and you were maybe doing really bad in the interview, but just say, oh, I really want to work here and blah, 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 blah. Well, you put them in the corner and it makes them feel bad. Yes, You do need to tell them, I want to work here, because that's what they want to hear, but you don't want to overdo it and make them feel like, it's a favor. Too desperate, yeah, you need a job, you're going to do whatever you can. Desperation comes across too. So it's a balance of confidence, not being desperate, but not being narcissistic. It's a juggling act. If you make it seem like hiring you is a big favor, the interviewer is likely to pass on you. So, don't come in with the arrogance of, I'm going to solve all the problems, although that's what they want to hear. But again, it's a balancing act of not being narcissistic and self-confident, but being self-confident. What missteps are you making? Common reasons people don't get hired: they're not preparing. It's obvious to the employer that you didn't prepare, or that you just went to the internet and memorized interview questions and responses. It's got to come from you. It has to be your experience. I know I've been in workshops where people have said, oh, so-and-so, they made up answers to questions, and how did they keep getting the job? And I'm being honest and I'm not getting the job. Well, the person that's lying, it's on them. If they're hired and they cannot do the work, it's obvious to the employer and they're going to get fired. Or if they're lying about their credentials, it's going to be found out. Why set yourself up to fail in a job? You want to succeed. Whatever they're doing, it's on them, but you are only accountable for yourself. Not just demonstrating that you've researched the employer. The worst thing that you could do in an interview is when they ask you the question, what do you know about us? And you don't have a response, it's over. And it could be just an entry-level position. You need to know, who is this employer? Why are you applying for them? Why are you applying for a job with this employer? And saying you need a paycheck isn't good enough. So really, put some thought into it. Why this employer? Not making a distinction between you and other candidates. You want to be better than the next candidate, and you need to give them the wow factor. What makes you better than the other candidates? And it's really, again, connecting the dots, figuring out what skill it is that they need, sharing and demonstrating, examples of you performing that skill, having that chemistry, letting them know, I'm easy to get along with, right? Not showing interest or enthusiasm. Be passionate about it. Show passion for that position or that company, that brand. Not asking questions. That's the worst thing that you could do too, is not even ask questions. There's got to be something that you could ask. Why is the position available? What skills are required to be successful in the position? So maybe you figured out what skills. Ask them what skills are needed for somebody to succeed in the position. What are the challenges of the position? Why do you work here? These are all good questions to ask. What you must convey at the end of the interview. So you're at the end of the interview. What do you do now? You need to let them know that if you're hired, you are going to start making an impact on day one. If you are able to get the hiring manager to imagine you contributing meaningful work on your first day, you've done well. Make sure you connected the dots, you painted the picture of how you could be great in this position. So, another question that you could ask is, after, talking, is there anything that makes you think that I cannot succeed? And that's another opportunity for you to reiterate your skills. You'll fit in with the team. They want to know that you're going to get along with people. You're enthusiastic about the job. This is everything that you need to, at the end of the interview, convey that you're enthusiastic about the job, that some candidates overpraise the interviewer and it may seem as kissing up. So it is a delicate dance. Again, remember, they want to know why you applied for the position in the company, why them, when there's thousands of other companies to work for. What recruiters are saying about you, why they didn't hire you. You gave me canned answers and you spent your time trying to read my expressions on my face to make sure you're pleasing me instead of kind of being a dialogue. When I said, how would you approach the problem? You jumped into a thoughtless answer. You approached it like an oral exam. Again, it's not an interrogation, it's a conversation. You told me about every accolade conferred to you, but tell me about yourself. What are you proud of? And that's the accomplishments that you need to share. It is not you. You need to know that you can do everything right, and the recruiters are going to get it wrong. Recruiters work for the company, not you, and they have to carry out the request of the hiring manager. So even though you made a connection with the recruiter, you have to make a connection with the hiring manager. They don't know, the recruiters don't know all the positions. They can't possibly recruit the right position if they don't know about the position. The company decides to close the position. Again, it's not your fault. It's not your fault that the recruiter doesn't know the position or what a good candidate looks like. It's not your fault. The company decides to close the position, or, they extended it to an internal employee. That's not your fault. Consider perhaps it's a bad company to work for anyways, right? You can give all that you can in the interview, pat yourself on the back and walk away. That's really what you need to do. If you could honestly say that you prepared for the interview, and you're confident that you gave your best, pat yourself on the back, tell yourself, well done, reflect on the interview, recount what you did wrong, change that behavior, do better in the next interview, and move on. Don't rehash it over and over again, because you're going to get frustrated, you're going to get mad, and then you're going to bring that into the next interview. You don't want to do that. Really quickly, let's talk about confidence versus arrogance. It's really about emotional intelligence. What you need to understand, the core of emotional intelligence is knowing, yourself, managing yourself. Because if you can't manage your own emotions, how can you manage, when you're interacting with a customer and they trigger you, you're going to escalate the situation. So you need to know, how do I think? How do I solve problems? What are my emotions? What are my triggers? So you need to know, what are your emotional intelligence? And then there's all kinds of surveys that you could do about, figuring out what are your triggers, and identifying these emotions and then doing something about it. Don't let your emotions get away from you. If you do, you're going to lose your objectivity. Not only are you going to potentially say the wrong things and cause problems, but you're going to lose your clarity. You're going to lose your connection to the truth. You're going to lose your connections to what you want to achieve. You really need to understand what it is that triggers me. And there's, when you're working with customers and you're in a situation where the conversation could start to escalate, you're the one that's responsible for pulling back and figuring out, okay, I'm not going to take this personal. I'm going to just listen to what they say. I'm not bringing my biases into this conversation, and I'm going to talk this customer down. That's on you. You are the person providing the customer service, and it's on you to de-escalate the situation. But if you're an emotional person, you need to figure out, if in that conversation, do you feel your blood pressure rising? Do you feel like, you're getting twitches or you're not focused on it? It's on you to control yourself. And this goes to the interview. You know, if they make a comment that upsets you or trigger you, are you going to lose your cool in the interview? But in the interview, you got to come across as confident, right? People lack self-confidence in the interview. They lack their ability to share their accomplishments, and you should do that. That's what makes you better than the next candidate. Be positive. Arrogant people are negative. You know, a confident person, they push above their fears. An arrogant person is usually insecure. Show maturity in the interview. You know, be humble. You know, a confident person, they're loyal. They're on time to meetings. You know, someone that's arrogant, they're full of ego. They arrive late sometimes, you know, to meetings and to interviews. But you've got to be self-confident in the interview, and the recruiter and the hiring manager can see that lack of confidence. And you can't act it. You really can't. People understand and they see that. So really ask yourself, am I practicing for the interview? Am I reflecting on my skills and my accomplishments? Am I practicing? Are you exaggerating the truth, overselling, spinning the interview questions or the answers? Are you confident? Are you arrogant? Did you engage in the conversation and provide good examples of your behavior? Again, in the interview, do the best you can, practice. After the interview, spend just a little time thinking about what did I do wrong, and then changing the behavior in the next interview. Don't take it personal, move on. The right position is going to open up for you. It always does. You could do this. So does anybody have any questions about anything that I've said?
I have one for you, Anna. You talked a lot about, not being negative. Do you have, about maybe a current employer that you don't like or one in the past? Do you have any tips other than practicing of how to quell that negativity?
Yeah, so, it kind of depends on how long you've been there. So, you've got to be honest about yourself. So if you are bringing that same behavior into a job where, you don't get along with people, or you don't like your manager, and things happen, and then you leave, right? You go to the next job, and then you find things wrong with that job or that person, you're not getting along. You need to kind of own up to that. Because that's one of the things that the employer is looking at. Are you a job hopper? Why are you leaving the job all the time and going to the next? And it's usually because there's conflict in the job, and that person that's doing the job hopping is, being kind of passive aggressive about things and not owning the situation. So, if that's the situation, then you need to take ownership of that and change your behavior. But if you're in a position where that's not what's happening, and, the employer or this manager is just difficult to deal with, I think people understand, yeah, we're going to be working with jerks sometimes. And if that's the situation, you could prove, you've got a really good work history here, and you worked in this position, for a while, and you left because of, the hiring manager being a jerk. Well, you don't want to give too much detail, but what you want to say is that, it was a new manager, and, they were reorganizing. And I think, I've worked up the chain of command as much as I can. I've actually had that situation. I worked in nonprofits a lot, and they brought in a new CEO, and she was really difficult to work with. Everybody knew it. And that's really kind of why I left. So in the interview, I basically said, they brought in a new a new CEO. And, you know, I just didn't feel like I had a future there, that they were reorganizing. And, you know, I've done as much as I can and I left. And it was acceptable. You know, I didn't talk about this person really being a jerk. You know, so it's how you say it. You don't want to give too much information. You want to be confident in how you're saying it, and that you have to practice that. So, and they could see it. I mean, you could be saying one thing that sounds like, oh, that's a good response, but then you're fidgeting or you're turning red or your hands are moving or your eyes are shifty. Your body language is not congruent with what you're saying. So, I mean, every situation is unique and different. And we could talk about that because I really need to know more about the situation to give you a good answer. But in some situations, you can be honest. But I think what they're looking for, like I said at the beginning, is, you know, are you just leaving jobs because it's difficult? Or are you just leaving jobs because you're just not getting along with people, right? And are you just going to leave because there's conflict? And conflict happens in every job. And it's not, you know, I'm not talking about conflict, people screaming and yelling at each other. I'm talking about miscommunication. There could be conflict because maybe, you know, there's been change and they're implementing change and it wasn't managed well and it frustrated people and we lost our focus. You know, and or maybe they hired a new person. I mean, there's all kinds of situations. But I think what they're trying to figure out is if there's an issue, you know, are you going to handle it? Or are you going to be passive aggressive about it and leave? So I hope that kind of answers your question. But I think in all fairness, I need to know more to help you kind of figure out how to answer that question.
Oh, that's very helpful. Thank you. And I think that leads in well. If you would like to meet with Anna, her contact information is on the screen. If you, for some reason, lose her email address, email me and I'll get you connected with Anna. You know, we're all here to get you connected with the right person to answer your questions.